Joining us now, Shak Hill. Shak ran for U.S. Senate in 2014, got beat by Ed Gillespie at the Roanoke Convention, and now he's a candidate for Congress running against Barbara Comstock for the 10th district nomination. Of course, Barbara, the Republican incumbent there. Shak, good to have you with us, man.
John and Martha, I've got to let you know, yesterday I was listening to you on AM 570, The Truth. You sounded great. This morning I was listening to you live from your website, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show. Yesterday, you're right. We've been misled about what's going on. And earlier this morning, you said, you put a quote up of the congresswoman who said that they've created a structure that protects the predator. And we've all been misled about it. So on your show, I did share with you some information that I was told, which is inaccurate. So I appreciate the opportunity to let your listeners know, and I appreciate you having me back on. I said that Barbara could move a motion and the names would be made public immediately. That has turned out not to be the case. And I certainly don't want to use your forum of the truth to put out information that's not correct. But it is day 8, and she still has not called for John Conyers to resign.
Well, that's fair. I mean, you can criticize her on that. Now, the Comstock campaign has refuted that, though, and they said that they called on Al Franken to resign when they were on Meet the Press, and then they called on Conyers to resign. So they are disputing that, and I'm going to get that tweet. I think they tweeted it out, but the Comstock campaign said they have called for both the resignations of John Conyers and Al Franken, and they did that publicly. But to set the record straight here, Shak, and why I wanted to have you on again, is that you alleged yesterday that, as you said, that Congresswoman Barbara Comstock could simply, at the next Congressional Administration Committee meeting, ask for the names to be released, ask for transparency, make a motion that's just inaccurate. I don't know where you got that, but it's not true, because here's the deal. That is a law that got passed in a 1995 Congressional Act that Barbara wasn't even in Congress. She had nothing to do with that. And the way the law reads is that when these settlements are made, the ranking member and the chairman, they approve the amount and they know of the allegation, but they do not know the names, nor do any of the members of that committee know any of the names. And by law, they can't have the names released. So in order to do what you were suggesting, the United States government would have to change the law enacted in the 1995 Congressional Act.
That's right.
And that would take somebody to file a new law. It would have to pass out of committee, pass out of the House, pass out of the Senate, get reconciled, and get signed by President Trump. And what the Comstock campaign has said is they propose just that, and their legislation, which is moving along, is to be able to do that. They're also saying that they passed legislation now combating sexual harassment. So I think the issue is, if you're running for Congress, Shak, this is a federal office, and you get on the air and you're alleging something that's just structurally not true. I mean, I think that speaks to your credibility, and I don't think that's a good idea.
I think you're right, and I think it speaks to your credibility that you're allowing us to set the record straight. But here's the thing that's frustrating to everybody, is that nobody knows the names. And just like Martha said not too long ago, it was pervasive in the Congress that we knew people, you don't go in the elevator with him, don't be seen with this person alone, because this has been going on, John. Why do the American people not have access to the names that American taxpayer dollars are funding and actually protecting the predator? So Barbara does have the ability. I checked into this. She has the ability to change the structure of how these victims file complaints, because she sits on the very committee that has this. She should be proposing a standalone law, which she's not. She's poisoned the pill on that. We could talk about that another day. But she did say this, John, and this is important because Martha will appreciate it. She said that she was on the Capitol Hill since the late 1980s, and she knew that, and she mentions this by name, Bob Packwood and Charlie Wilson and others were behaving like this. So she went from an intern to a staffer to other functions in the Bush administration to now a member. And why all of a sudden, 3 years later, she has this fake outrage that maybe it's come to light for the first time. And yesterday, when I was calling and talking to you on the phone, I was with Kathleen Willey, I was with Juanita Broderick, and I was with Melanie, who is the lady that filed the second complaint against Senator Franken. They invited Barbara to come to their press conference, to be the voice of the victim. And Barbara Comstock refused to be seen with these ladies. I mean, this is maybe she had other. I made a mistake. I got it.
Well, maybe she had other plans, Shak. I mean, maybe she had a committee meeting or trying to get a bill passed. I mean,
if she's going to be the voice of the people, she needs to stand with the people. And she's not standing with the people, and she's not standing with the victims.
I mean, she's just. Wait a minute, Shak. Wait a minute.
The predators.
Oh, Shak. Now you're saying she's protecting the predators because she couldn't make a meeting because
is protecting the predators. We are releasing a video.
That's a serious allegation you're making.
That shows that Barbara Comstock knows of a lady who knows of a staffer who went to a congressman's house who was dressed in a towel. Congressman Comstock believes that there's criminal behavior in that activity, and yet she has done nothing. We're releasing the video today, John. I mean, this was an administrative misleading because even the congresswoman at the beginning of your show at the 7 o'clock hour said that there's a structural problem that protects the predators. That is true. But this is systemic, and ever since Barbara Comstock has been on this committee, that committee continues for 36 payouts and over $2 million to protect the predators. There's no other way of seeing it.
I mean, it says that she's protecting predators because she couldn't make a meeting, that maybe she had something else scheduled. I mean, I think that's just a bridge too far. I mean, I don't mind, debating her congressional record, Shak, but I mean, I don't know what was going on with her on that particular day or who was at this meeting, but I think you're making a serious allegation that Congresswoman Barbara Comstock is protecting predators.
Look at the video we put out today. It's absolutely crystal clear, and it's of her. Crystal clear, John.
Oh, what is the video? Just explain it in a minute.
Less than 2 weeks ago, Barbara was on the dais of the Committee on House Administration. Anybody with the World Wide Web can look this up. The Committee on House Administration, in her opening statement, she relayed a story that ends up protecting a current congressman in the House of Representatives right now that she believes might have included criminal behavior, and yet she's done nothing about it. I mean, she admitted to it less than 2 weeks ago on the dais. So for your listeners, they can go to the Committee on House Administration, that's the formal name. That committee oversees the Committee on Compliance. It's the Office of Compliance, the Office of Compliance that writes the checks. It's the Committee on House Administration that approves it in this arcane, misleading, structural process that ends up protecting the predators at the sacrifice of the victims. It's right there, John, and we're releasing it today.
So what should she have done? I mean, so she made the comment on the dais, and you're saying she's doing nothing.
Call the Capitol Police. Call 911. If she's a lawyer, just like Martha is, if you're aware of a crime, call the police. She knows of the person who directly knows the staffer who quit her job because she was met by the congressman at the congressman's residence when the congressman showed up and answered the door in a towel.
Is that illegal?
Well, this is.
Why would you call the Capitol Police?
Barbara Comstock is alleging that there's criminal behavior here. Not me. I don't know the details at all.
Now, there are lots of stories of members exposing themselves in different ways to staffers and other individuals.
And when Barbara does not come forward to expose that congressman, she is protecting the predator. There's no way around that, Martha.
I thought the towel story was John Conyers? Is it someone else?
There are stories of certain members swimming in their own swimming pool in the nude, and without without wearing a bathing suit, and exposing themselves at their home in their swimming pool to members of their staff and others.
Is that illegal?
Well, that's the problem, because
it's creepy. It's gross.
It's creepy, and one would have to question why a member would do that in the presence of individuals that they serve with.
I mean, if you were a woman and you went and somebody said, "Come to my home to deliver papers," and you're coming out of the shower or you're in your pool naked, I mean, why would you continue to work there?
Well, I mean,
that's the whole point.
I would
exactly
quit.
The point that was trying to be made is that this staffer now has quit her job. She's lost the ability to maybe do her dream job working on Capitol Hill on behalf of her country. And she is now left, and Barbara Comstock knows. This is what she has said. She knows of the incident. She knows of the person who knows the staffer, and yet she remains quiet. This is not going away,
So what does
John.
this have to do? I'm just trying to figure out, though, Shak. What does this have to do?
And this cannot be tolerated. And when she says she wants to be the voice of the victims, she needs to step up here and start releasing the names. And if she has called for John Conyers to resign, I champion that. But we haven't seen that on her Facebook page. We haven't seen that on other areas in national media.
Okay.
They're saying that they said that in November on Meet the Press, she called for, what's his name, Al Franken to resign in a tweet that she sent out that I'm reading now. So,
look, Congress has paid.
Not Al Franken.
Yeah, Congress has paid $17 million in sexual misconduct and discrimination settlements. Over 268 settlements on Capitol Hill in the last 20 years through the Office of Compliance, or according to the Office of Compliance. And the Office of Compliance was set up in 1995. And apparently, more than 80% of the complaints that have been made, more than 80%. By the way, this act was set up in 1995 under the Congressional Accountability Act. Okay, this under the Congressional Accountability Act.
Unbelievable.
And in 2002 and 2007, the settlements were several $1 million. Where is this money coming from? We all know it's coming from taxpayers. It's our hard-earned money that we all work so hard for. But it's not 100% inclusive. So legislation has just been introduced to address sexual assault in Congress, but 80% of the people who have told this office about sexual misconduct, over 80% choose not to report it to the OOC. So think about that. That's very telling.
The committee oversees the OOC, and while she's been there, Martha, $2 million have been paid out and 36 claims have been made. And to your point, 80% of other people have not even filed. Why? Because the OOC protects the predator at the direct sacrifice of the young lady victim.
But Barbara has known about this. You're trying to hang the entire culture and the entire everybody that sits on the OOC board and anybody that oversees it and all the 435 members. You're trying to hang the whole thing on Barbara Comstock, who's been there for 2 terms. I mean,
there's only 6.
Maybe she could do more, but there's 435 members, and all of a sudden, Barbara's been there 2 terms, and Barbara's fault that all of this is not come out or not happening. It just seems a stretch to me.
Oh no, John, and I appreciate this. This is not Barbara Comstock's fault. There's no doubt about that. This is not her fault. But right now, this is absolutely her responsibility. And it has been her responsibility ever since she's been in the Congress. She sits with only 6 other members, not 435. There's only 6 members that sit on this committee. And she's one of the 6 and the only female. She has direct oversight with what Martha's saying of the OOC, the Office of Compliance. This is a congressional mandate that she oversees this, and she's done nothing about this for the last 3 years. Nothing. And all
I don't know what authority. I don't know what authority Barbara Comstock has, so I can't speak to that. But here's something that I think we can universally agree to, regardless of where anybody falls, and that's that we should not have an institutionalized cover-up culture slush fund where there's no transparency. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you support Barbara Comstock, you don't support Barbara Comstock. At the end of the day, we can all agree universally that there shouldn't be an institutionalized cover-up slush fund, and there should be transparency.
Well, I think what Shak is saying is, I think what Shak is saying is, look, maybe, it would be nice if you presented legislation to change this law totally so that everything was transparent and there was no slush fund. And if you pay money out, it's got to come out of your own pocket. I'm not sure that's what her legislation is right now. It has to do with corporations and other things. It's not just specific
and John, to that point, and this is important.
Fund.
She wants to go after the corporations and take away their ability to take settlement payments and use that as an operating cost, which reduces their tax burden. In theory, that makes sense, but what's the corporation going to do now? They're no longer going to settle. They're going to force all of these sexual harassment cases to the court. And just like Martha said not too long ago, it's extremely hard to prove a sexual harassment case. And you yourself, John, kept saying, well, is it illegal to swim in your own swimming pool nude? No, but
I don't
is
know
that
that.
harassment?
Maybe it is. I don't
Absolutely. Know. So Barbara's legislation will force corporations to take it to court. And you know what's going to happen? The cloak of secrecy will remain because the women victims will not file lawsuits because there's no way to prove it. This is a sham of the first degree, John. Take a look at the video that we're releasing today, ShakHill.com.
All right, Shak, we got to roll. Go to ShakHill.com. John Fredericks Radio Network.